Hello and welcome into Fantasy Focus Football. My name is Daniel Dopp here with Yates, Stephania Bell, Mike Clay, a little bit of everybody on this show. We got the entire crew together. It's going to be a very fun one as we dive into everything we're going to get to for week 4. Before we get started, I do want to say this. The internet did not disappoint. I was told I have strong yet supple ankles in many DMs last night.
Really?
So, Stephania, if you don't know what I'm talking about, please feel free to go back and check out yesterday's show.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Yeah, or
Like,
maybe
you know,
don't
if you don't
do
want
it. I don't
ankle
know.
talk. Also cool. Like
well,
if you're a normal human.
I got no ankle notes, which is why I'm wearing these ones.
Oh, you got those are my long socks.
Yeah,
That's
we're
usually
hiding
what I
them
do.
today.
Mike borrowed socks from my grandfather, just as a heads up right there. What are those like?
Well, I'm wearing these because to take a page out of Daniel's notebook, I'm doing SportsCenter today. So you got to always mention it when we're on SportsCenter.
Got to do that.
Big time. So
got to get a little bit of love.
SportsCenter a little later with my best friend Tyler Fulgham. So
That'll be fun. All right, hey, listen. Go ahead.
The only thing I was gonna say is 3 of us are in denim, and 1 of us is not.
Oh, Fields Yates.
Sorry.
Did not get
look
the
at them
memo.
shoes, though.
I
Look at
definitely
them
did not
shoes,
get
though.
the
You
memo.
can't miss Field.
No, yeah, we're not with those shoes.
LeBron Palmer's, baby.
I love that. Love that. All right, hey, listen, if you want to go back and check out our Week 4 preview part 1, like we just talked about, a lot of things, more than just ankle talk in that show. We dove into a lot of good fantasy
mostly
football
ankle
content.
talk.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, too. We talked about some child's food, some kids' food, too. Also, FF Now, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. Check that out with all the injuries that we have going on. Unfortunately, Stephania is very busy on that show, but it makes sure to help you get set up to be able to set your lineup the way you want. Let's dive right in before we get to a recap with our Thursday Night Football reaction. Giants took a page out of the Commanders' books, wanted to see how many field goals they could score without trying to get into the end zone.
Yeah, that was, I wonder how many people, the raw number of people, not the percentage, the raw number of people that actually started Greg Joseph on ESPN Fantasy last night.
Very few because
You think it was under 100?
Probably because he was an injury replacement. So he wasn't even a guy you drafted at all because he wasn't on our roster. So yeah, it wasn't many.
5 field goals.
I do want to say this. Obviously, we watched an awesome game from both Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson. Neighbors, unfortunately, left with a concussion, so we're going to continue to monitor that one towards the end of the game, I believe it was, that he got the
Late in the
that
game,
final play, yeah.
Wan'Dale is hilarious.
This
What
is
a
a
hilarious stat line. So here's the stats this year.
he's the
38
PPR
targets. Yeah, 38 targets, 26 catches, 194 yards, and a touchdown. So he's under 200 yards and 26 catches, which is just
That's unbelievable.
It's like a running back stat line.
It's like a running back who doesn't ever carry the football. But you know what? In PPR scoring, that totally matters. He now has 3 games this season with at least 8 targets. He was wide receiver 29 in ESPN consensus coming into the week last night. That might end up being relatively close to where he ends up, despite having 11 catches, because they all go for like 2.5 yards.
Yep.
But if you play in PPR, he is an absolute PPR nightmare for your opponent. If you play in non-PPR, Wan'Dale Robinson has much less value.
He might
But
catch
who
100
cares?
balls. He might catch 100 passes. this
He
year.
really could.
Well on the
And
way.
He's this is no slouch, by the way. This is a 3rd-year player who was drafted in the 2nd round. So he is, the idea of him staying involved in the offense is real, especially if, for some reason, Malik Neighbors is unavailable next Sunday. Way too early for any of us to know whether he'll be available. But as we know, with the concussion, it's at least possible.
You know what I just realized? I think he has more catches than non-PPR fantasy points.
It's probably
He has 26 catches, and I believe he is right around 25.5 standard
amazing.
fantasy points. Unreal.
That really is.
It really is. He's going to be a big part of their offense. So if you just watch it last night, they are limited at receiver, obviously beyond those 2 players. And with Neighbors now uncertain for week 5, very much a Wan'Dale Robinson spot.
Especially in a situation where we're going to start having bye weeks show up. Like, he's easily, to me, he's going to be a flex play likely moving forward if he's going to keep getting the volume that he's getting.
Yep.
Really quickly, just to say this, Malik Neighbors is just awesome. I know, obviously, with the concussion, but 3 straight 20-point fantasy games. I mean, this kid is just unreal.
deal.
He's amazing.
He's
He
everything
is
that you thought he was.
The only thing I'll say is that a lot of people on the internet got mad when draft analysts suggested the possibility that Malik Neighbors maybe could have gone ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. It was blasphemy. You couldn't ever say anything like that. I'm not saying the story is anywhere close to being fully written, but do you at least understand why it was a conversation?
Yep.
Do you understand why there are NFL teams that had Malik Neighbors as the highest graded wide receiver in the draft? If you don't by now, I'm not sure what you've been watching for the past 4 weeks.
On the other side of this, the Dallas Cowboys running backs were basically what we expected. Rico Dowdle does get in the end zone, which helps elevate his fantasy value, but it's a little bit of everybody here in this backfield. So it didn't feel good. I mean, we said, I don't want to start anyone here. After watching that game, I still don't want to start anyone in this backfield.
Yeah.
If you'd like a piece of the Cowboys backfield, raise your hand right now.
Yeah, what did Dan Graziano say this morning on Get Up? The best running back on Dallas is CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. And he actually did have a handful of snaps as a running back last night, including 2 carries.
Yeah, snaps were 24 for Dowdle, 9 for Zeke, and 3 for Deuce Vaughn, but that was only good enough for 47% for Rico Dowdle. So this is a full-on committee and maybe the shakiest backfield in fantasy. Like, you just went no part of it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. We saw basically, I don't want to say what we expected. I expected the Cowboys. I mean, even though I took the Giants to win this one, I expected the Cowboys to look pretty good.
The passing game is actually a good thing right now for the Cowboys because there's 2 guys, and that's all that matters, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, CeeDee's going to get his, and then Jake Ferguson's going to mash. He's going to continue to be He actually was facing in a league against him and Wandale. And I was like, God, they really did combine for 18 catches last night. The hole isn't that significant that I'm in because they combined for 18 catches and like 100 total yards. But still, like, he's going to completely sop up targets in this offense, Stephania.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb's on a bunch of my team, so I was happy to see him have this coming out party last night. Look, I thought he was a little bit Deebo Samuel-esque in terms of how they were using him in that motion to carry the football. So, look, if you can use CeeDee Lamb more ways than one, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I like when I said this on Twitter last night. Every podcast host in the fantasy football community was legally obligated yesterday to mention that CD was in a smash spot. And then you saw why last night when the game began. I mean, Mike has hinted at just how bad the Giants' cornerback depth is, especially without 2 parts of the secondary in Adoree Jackson and Drew Phillips last night, and they look like a team that desperately lacks cornerbacks. So if the Cowboys could play the Giants every single week, which somehow it feels like they always do, CeeDee Lamb would be the best player in the history of fantasy football.
Yeah, but mentioned Malik Neighbors with the injury, but also big deal that Micah Parsons was carted off with a foot injury as well for that Dallas defense.
I thought the Giants straight up looked like the better team in this one. They just couldn't find the end zone. If Dallas couldn't stop the run, because they had, 20 carries, 21 yards, the Giants, it would have been a different story.
Yeah, we'll continue to watch and see how both of these offenses play out soon. All right, when we come back, we're talking quarterback conundrums for Week 4.
Can we just close the book on last night for a second here?
Sure, why not?
I just got to say, that was a disappointment from Devin Singletary last night. Like, enough volume for sure. Mm-hmm. Like, 15 opportunities, not terrible. But good Lord, that Giants offensive line unable to get the push against that Cowboys defensive front, given how terrible they have been. Mike just referenced the rushing stats. I'm sorry. I mean, it was like I don't regret the process behind having Devin Singletary as a top 25 option, but he has a lot of work to do to end up as a top 25 running back this week. He needs everybody else to just stink for the rest.
And played 69% of the snaps, so he was out there on the field a ton. He had that really good play on it. I think it was 4th down. They went for it. So he's playing fine, but you're right. He had nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go.
All right, let's talk about some quarterback conundrums here this week. Week 4, Stephania, I'm going to start with you on a bunch of these because unfortunately we got a lot of quarterbacks that have been banged up. Jordan Love, we are very excited to be able to get him back. What can you tell us about?
We hope that he's back. I mean, everything is pointing to Jordan Love coming back. Obviously, the Week 1 MCL sprain. He was limited in practice both days this week. The chatter is consistently about him being able to protect himself. Can Jordan Love protect himself to the point where the team is comfortable putting him in place to start? I think if things go well today, we will see him back this week.
Okay. I mean, that's what we want because we want to be able to start at least one of these Green Bay Packers wide receivers, if not a couple of them. Minnesota, this came from the great Henry Buggy from our Stats and Info group. Minnesota, the second most yards allowed to wide receivers this season with 590. Do you think that Jaden Reed or Christian Watson or Dontavian Wicks or Romeo Dobbs, who are you starting potentially in this one?
Yeah, it's Jaden Reed based on what we've seen so far. Christian Watson has a very slow start to the season. And with Jaden Reed, what we know is that while he is A, dynamic with the football in his hands, he is B, also the player they find the most creativity for, right? They actually find ways to get him the football. I kept talking about how he reminded me of Curtis Samuel down the stretch in his last season with Carolina. It's been even better than that when Jordan Love has been on the field of late. He has been a touchdown scoring machine. And while the Packers have allowed a lot of yards to opposing wide receivers, I do attribute the Vikings, I do attribute a bit of that, Mike, to the fact that they've been smashing teams. That being said, I do think this will be a game in which Jaden Reed will be involved enough that he is a top 23 wide receiver option for me.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If Love comes back, I'm starting Jaden Reed, but that's it. Because even Christian Watson is basically in a wide receiver by committee with Dontavian Wicks, and then Romeo Dobbs plays every down, but he's not consistent in fantasy, at least putting up big points. The guy I'm adding, if you're shaky at tight end, there's been a lot of disappointments and injuries, is Tucker Kraft, because he's the clear number one there, and it would not surprise me if he ends up in the top 12, top 15 once Love's healthy and on the field.
Yes, Field Yates, go ahead.
Mike, I'm just wondering, was there any need to caveat that? Like, if you're looking to add a tight end because you're shaky at that position?
Okay. You should all add Tucker Kraft
Everyone
because
should.
you are shaky at tight end.
Yeah. To the 4 people that play in a league where you're allowed to use tight ends from years past and just apply their fantasy points from like 2021 to 2024, you're fine. Everybody else, we're screwed.
Yeah. Oh, tight end doesn't feel great. Let's please fix that. Hopefully you just played Jake Ferguson last night and you can be fine for the rest of the week. What about Sam Darnold? Are we at a point yet where it feels like with everything we've seen from Sam Darnold, he at least needs to be considered as a starter, or do you guys have him outside your top 10 to 12 and 10 to 12 team league?
I've used this analog before, and I'll do it one more time. He reminds me, Mike, of what we've seen with Geno Smith 2 years ago and Baker Mayfield last year, where like I do think he'll end up having half a dozen, no, probably more than that, 8 to 10 weeks where he's a top 12 quarterback. I think the fear with Sam Darnold, and there are other much more high-profile quarterbacks that have struggled way worse than this, is that the down weeks for Sam, in which he could play fine, could be like 181 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and they just kill it on the ground. So the floor is, I think, lower for Sam Darnold. He's quarterback 12 for me this week, but I definitely think he should be rostered in way more leagues as of now.
Yeah, I mean, he does lead the NFL in passing touchdowns right now, so there's that. I will say this, though. We have seen this from Sam Darnold before. He has these stretches of hot play, and it's happened out of the gate. Back in 2021 in Carolina, opened the season with 18-plus fantasy points in 4 straight games to open the season. He was QB5. He's 4 right now. He was QB5 that year. The rest of the season, he averaged 7.8 fantasy points per game.
Yikes.
So we have seen this before. So is this legit from Sam Darnold, or are those things that always seem to pop up where he starts turning it over, making mistakes, end up creeping up? So I love Kevin O'Connell. He has Justin Jefferson, now a healthy Addison, eventually Hawkinson. So maybe this is the time for him, and you're right, he'll be the next Baker or Geno Smith, but I'm being cautious with this one.
Quarterback 1 in passing touchdowns, quarterback 14 in passing yards.
But he doesn't have to throw much.
Yeah, right.
They're so efficient. They just get these leads. And
in part because Aaron Jones, Stephania's big preseason call, has been absolutely crushing it. So let's hope that continues.
Yeah, well, Aaron Jones going back to the
Green Bay. Oh, it's a revenge game narrative.
Well, and it's really, he still is very close with LaFleur, and he talked about, he actually posted, you should read it if you get a chance, in Players Tribune, all this very heartfelt thank you to Green Bay, but he did say he plans to make a Lambeau leap if he scores.
Oh, okay.
I will mention his teammate Jordan Addison, because you brought it up, coming back from the ankle injury, they hope. Limited in practice this week. Remember, that happened in week 1. He sprained his ankle, and it was pretty significant. It was on top of an injury he'd had to the other ankle in the training camp. He did tell reporters he expects to play, though, so if things go well in practice today, Jordan Addison should be back.
Hey, that would be nice. Just another piece for Sam Darnold to be able to have at his disposal. All right, let's talk about Tennessee and Miami. This one is tough. The expectations for all of the Miami skill position players with either Tim Boyle or Snoop Huntley under center. I went through and looked at this. Tyreek Hill, in the 5 games that he's played without Tua Tagovailoa, has 1 game over 55 receiving yards.
Yeah, he had 177 in that game.
Yes, he did.
So it was awesome. And that one game is enough to make you nervous as all get out to bench him. That's the craziest part of this dynamic, because the possibility of sitting Tyreek Hill is in play right now, right? Because there's better wide receiver depth, and there have been more wide receiver values than there have been running back values. We talked about some scenarios that you could have reasonably done in August that landed you with 3 better wide receivers right now than Tyreek Hill. But man, Mike, is it frightening to actually press that button and go bench Tyreek Hill and play somebody else over him.
I'll tell you what, I have more optimism now if Tyler Huntley is the quarterback, because we've seen him have good days. Like there was a stretch. Actually, he's played a majority of the snaps in 11 games in his career. He has 200-plus passing yards in 4 of those 11 games. That's not too bad. I mean, we're worried about them throwing for 95 yards or something. Right. Huntley has shown that he can throw 200-plus, and he did that for a stretch of 3 consecutive games, including that game where he had 4 total touchdowns, 2 passing, 2 rushing. So unlike some other quarterbacks, like a Tim Boyle, for example, or even Skylar Thompson, we've seen it from Tyler Huntley, at least there's a chance he can throw the ball, get it in their hands, and they could perform. So I actually move the Titans defense down a little bit, move the pass catchers for Miami up a little bit with reports that suggest he may be the starter here.
All right, so I think that we're all still in. I mean, it feels dicey, but it's hard to not bench.
It's hard. It's the age-old question of, are you going to feel worse if you start him and he doesn't have a great game, or if he's on your bench and he goes off?
Yeah, what about Jalen Waddle? Can I ask you that, Stephania? Would you be trusting Jalen Waddle knowing he's the clear number 2 in this offense?
I think Jalen Waddle's the harder start for me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the numbers just aren't there to support you activating Waddle with these backup quarterbacks. I mean, it was tough because we didn't have much time with him with Tua to begin with, but we had high hopes for Jalen Waddle being much more involved in this offense this season, and right now, he's just sort of forgotten in the mix.
Consensus rank is outside wide receiver 40 this week, which feels like, I mean, there's plenty of other options you could go with.
Who's the best bet of all the Dolphins wide receivers to get 10 targets in this game? Tyreek Hill, right?
Of course, yeah.
So if it's Tyreek Hill and we're talking about inefficient targets or perhaps low potency targets, right? Tyreek Hill catching 10 or getting 10 targets, 5 of them are wide receiver screens. The Titans are not going to be fooled on Monday night, all right? They do not expect Snoop Huntley to be driving the football down the field consistently. Wide receiver screens are not going to act like they often do with Tua in the offense because defense are having to slough off. That too high safety look might be abandoned on Monday night by the Titans. They don't need to go
about that. Yeah,
safety.
no one has faced it more than Miami so far this season. That's applied even after Tua's injury because teams are still afraid of Tyreek Hill. So we'll see how that applies this week.
I think you might get more receptions from Devon Achane.
Who already leads all running backs.
I think less. I think the too high is helping him because they're dumping it off to him. You know what I mean? Because Tyreek Hill and Waddle have nowhere to go.
That's what I mean.
Oh, you'll say less for Achane? Yeah, I think less for Achane, maybe more.
Less receptions, or wait, hold on. I think you thinking less rushing or less receptions?
No, I'm thinking they've been dumping it off so much to Achane. It was 100% catch rate because there's too high. You know, that's why he's benefited from it. Yeah.
Fewer too high safety looks means fewer catches.
It means maybe better for Hill and Waddle to have a big play, less for Achane. That's just my 2 cents.
Here's an example. Somebody asked me on this morning about Tyreek Hill, just to put an example that I think is real. Tyreek Hill. The options to play ahead of Tyreek Hill, you got to pick 2 out of these 3. Chris Olave and Deontay Johnson. And that's a good example of one.
It's a close call. Olave for sure. Yes. The other one's close.
Yeah. And that's where I said, hey, you know what? I totally hear you. I would end up playing Deontay Johnson. It's close, of course, but I do think that the Tyreek Hill benching scenario is legit. It's real because we have had a couple of values, like Deontay after last week, maybe after Malik Neighbors obviously was drafted not as the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football.
Gosh, it just doesn't feel good to start anyone right now in Miami. I mean,
bench your whole team.
Yeah. You can't do it, but
it does not just Miami, like any team. Like
honestly,
there's a handful of guys we like right now.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough with that one. I want to quickly mention this. ESPN Bet, the official sportsbook of ESPN, is now available in New York.
Let's go.
My friends, from Brooklyn to Buffalo. Go to sign up now at espnbet.com or by downloading the ESPN Bet app. You can get in there and have a little bit of fun while you're watching some games like you did last night on Thursday Night Football, which is going to be a ton of fun. All right, when we come back, we're going to dive into a handful more of these games with some quarterback conundrums. Figuring out where we're at on a few of these guys heading into week 4. All right, Daniel Dopp, Field Yates, Stephania Bell, and Mike Clay back here on Fantasy Focus. We're going to talk about some ballers or busts, a couple of different situations here in the Rams and Bears game. Let me ask you this question. Stephania, I'm going to start with you here. Okay?
I wonder why.
Rome Odunze.
Yeah, there's a few guys on the injury report here.
Yeah, he's been dealing with an MCL sprain since week 1, and then we found out he was limited at practice on Thursday with a hip injury. Also, Keenan Allen was limited on Thursday, but that's more of like a positive than a negative. So talk about both of those.
The Rome Odunze thing is new. We don't really know what this is. Hasn't been around to talk about it. This just happened on Thursday at practice. So definitely Friday matters. Is this a thing where they just capped the reps a little bit, or is this something to be concerned about? Keenan Allen, as you mentioned, this is positive, right? Because he hasn't been doing anything. Now, the Bears had hinted at it being short-term. They felt like he just needed rest, so he gets in a couple of limited practices. Actually looks like he's trending towards possibly going. Let's see what he does in practice Friday. But if things go well, he could be back out there.
How much of a discount would that make Rome Odunze? Like, Mike, how much would you discount Rome Odunze as a result of Keenan being back in the field?
A little bit. I mean, he's played 92% of the snaps, and he was maybe their number 2 in week 1 out of the gate with Allen kind of being on and off the field. Allen was obviously heavily targeted, but Odunze was on the field, and he had a big game last week. And you could almost make the case that Odunze has had the best connection with Caleb Williams so far. I mean, we saw that throughout the preseason as well. So what I like here is the matchup. So I think all three are at least under consideration to start against the Rams. Top 3 in touchdowns and fantasy points. 2 receivers, the most to the perimeter, which is where Moore and Odunze primarily align. And we've seen big games against them so far. Jawan Jennings last week. Jamison Williams and Marvin Harrison also at 24-plus points. So they've been getting torched by receivers this season.
They have been. So the reason why I asked you that is because you and I have a 14-spot difference on Rome Odunze in our Week 4 rankings, unless you have updated yours.
Are you at 30?
26.
Wow, okay. I was at 44 before Thursday Night Football. So, I mean, I have Allen in there. So target share will go up if he's back.
That smells like a board bet.
Sure does to me.
If Allen's back, we're saying?
I don't care.
I'm going to move him up where you are if Allen's out.
They could sign Marvin Harrison Sr. for this week. I don't care. I'm still doing it.
Okay, so what is it?
I like to have
Yates
fun.
has him at wide receiver 26. I've got him at wide receiver 35.
Yeah, so if Allen
Fields,
plays,
you've got him at wide receiver
if you need Allen to be in there.
40.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
So
no. Other way around.
Sorry, Mike Clay has him at 40. Fields, you have him at 26. So splitting the difference would be wide receiver 33.
Right.
Sure.
Math major confirmed?
I don't do math.
Close enough.
I do romance languages.
Literally? That was your major? Romance languages?
Literature.
French?
Yeah.
How
And
do we work that?
What was your
French
major?
lit and pre-med, and here we are.
We gotta
I
work that
write
into a
and I
segment.
speak medicine. All right.
All right. I say Rome Odunze will be a top 33 wide receiver in Week 4.
I say Rome Odunze will not be a top 33 receiver in Week 4 if Keenan Allen plays.
Put it on the board. You know what's funny, Mike, is...
Put it on the board.
He's always got a caveat something.
Yeah, I
know.
It's like,
Well, that's where I have him ranked with Keenan Allen's 20-some plus
edging,
target share in there.
edging. You know, last week Mike was complaining that he always has to have the positive outcomes. Now here you go, Mike, because there's got to be close to a couple hundred receivers that will see us snap at some point this weekend. And as a result of that, Mike, it's way more likely he's not a top 33 wide receiver. So congratulations to you. You have great odds,
I
and
already
you're still going to
make
lose.
excuses.
I love knowing.
No. You're still going to lose.
Yeah.
And I will gloat on Wednesday.
Look,
when
I have
do it.
Odunze on a lot of teams, so I hope I'm wrong on this one. I hope he's wide receiver 1 this week.
What did we find out about Mike McCarthy last night? He used to be
A toll booth operator?
toll booth operator, just with Stephania being a
I was
French
paying
lit
attention
major.
to the broadcast. I heard toll booth operator. I'm like, you just never know where life is going to
Doing
take you.
pre-med and being a French lit major was one of those things where it's like, wow, I wouldn't have expected that for you to end up here, like a toll booth operator not ending up as the head coach of the Dallas
I
Cowboys.
remember, at least maybe this was a thing growing up in Boston. They were doing the big dig, so a lot of construction, a lot of toll booth working. That it was a very steady job, apparently. It had like very good benefits, really steady pay, obviously a very consistent line of work as well in terms of what you're doing throughout the day. So maybe it had more appeal than you realized.
And I'm sure you met a bunch of really pleasant people.
Oh, I can only imagine.
This is the days before fast pass existed.
For what it's worth, I just want to ask you guys, like, did you have any random or weird jobs before you came into the fantasy industry? I was an electrician and I worked at Hot Topic, which, obviously probably.
I worked at a deli down the road from here, and I was a landscaper.
Really?
Yeah. I can't do a thing landscaping-wise now, but back in the day.
Did you do it with your shirt off? Were you one of those, like on Desperate Housewives?
No, you got to go like long sleeves every day, or else you got to avoid the sun somehow.
That's true. That's true. Mike, what about you?
Okay.
I worked at AAA before GPS, helping people map out their roads. So I would just take them all to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, wherever they were going, and worked in radiology as an assistant. We were working with like X-rays and stuff, just assisting there.
I don't believe that. That's made
no,
up. That
no,
one's made up.
Now the fantasy imposter's back.
No, it's true. That's a true story. I did for quite a while. And I parked cars as a kid too for like $10.
As a
You were like
kid?
7.
3 hours.
Wait, were
yeah.
you older?
I was older than that, but yeah, Big Diamond. Were
Remember,
my,
he
my
was
drivers.
driving little cars when he was
That's
little.
true.
So.
That's true.
Yeah, in
My
between
dad
3rd and
had
4th grade, I used to park cars. What?
Lunch.
No, I just pointed where to park.
All right, let's quickly talk
wow.
about that guy.
So many things.
Do we have to talk about the Rams wide receivers, or are we in pass mode
No, I
with
think
all
we're-
of them at this point?
I'm out.
Yeah.
Had a bad matchup too.
Yeah, if you have to pick one, it's DeMarcus Robinson based on his usage, but I would rather not.
Rather skip.
Or Tutu Atwell, just because he might be the most talented of the bunch.
Yeah, fair.
Still, that feels like a risky
Most
play.
better.
to
We're
me.
aware Cooper Kupp still out this week,
Yep.
obviously.
Stephania, let's talk about the Carolina Panthers and Cincinnati Bengals. In that one, do we have a Jonathan Brooks update? Is he coming back? I mean, is he eyeing return soon?
I think everybody's asking, right? Because players who've been on either NFI, like was the case with him, PUP list, it's getting to be that initial 4 weeks. We're coming upon the 4th week. These players had to miss 4 games minimum before they would be eligible to return to practice. Once they return to practice, they still have multiple weeks before they have to actually be activated to the active roster. Dave Canales said that they are, quote, close to being able to open the window. So what does that mean? Close to being able to return Jonathan Brooks to practice. And really it would be start with practice, because obviously he didn't do anything with the team during the preseason because of his status. You have to keep in mind, coming off an ACL from last November, he's still got to ramp up to be involved in football activity to get ready to play in a game. So I still think we're several weeks away.
Patience, young grasshoppers. Not to mention, Chuba Hubbard played excellent last week, and they have hope to continue to do exactly that this week.
Yeah. Bengals have given up the 10th most rushing yards to running back so far this year, and he looked really good. I mean, honestly, I feel like there's two. I can't get to the point where I'm considering starting Andy Dalton. Great story. Been great for this offense.
Great hair.
Offense, right? Great, absolutely great a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I'm not starting him, but I would consider Chuba Hubbard as a low-end RB2 or a high-end flex play if you want, or Deontay Johnson, who we've already talked about. Would you start Chuba Hubbard over Tyreek Hill?
That's a tough one. I'd probably lean towards Tyreek.
Still Tyreek.
But man, I feel like that just,
One of those things that doesn't feel good.
caught me off guard with that one, Daniel. I don't like it.
Sorry. But yeah, Chuba Hubbard, you can absolutely play this week.
Yeah, you can. But that's a great one. Like my knee-jerk reaction is Tyreek Hill. But if I thought about it more, I could change. Just a note for those that got a notification in the app yesterday about Deontay Johnson being downgraded.
Mm-hmm.
Friday morning, Stephania always reminds you we're not doing this live, so we may have more context. But he said they held him out of practice yesterday. They were, as you guys know, ton of rain on the Atlantic coast right now. They were practicing outdoors. They didn't want to risk it. He's going to practice today and play, and it seemed like that was 100% by design.
Didn't register on my radar as being concerned.
Hey, that's good.
Yet.
Okay.
Dot. Right.
That's why you watch fantasy football now on Sunday morning. Just
That's right.
Yep.
Quick Hubbard nugget. How about a high floor at running back? He has at least 11 fantasy points in 9 of his last 10 games, going back to last season. So he continues to deliver the goods, definitely on the RB2 radar. And one note on Andy Dalton, revenge game.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, yeah.
The Bengals. Let's
Yeah.
go.
It's a little bit unfair to say revenge game for Andy Dalton because like half of the teams is going to play this year.
I mean, it just feels like if he went into the Hall of Fame, who would it be? You had to put a helmet next to him.
It'd be the
Not that they do that, but it would be the Bengals.
the
Yeah.
Bengals. Yeah, I'm with you on
I
that.
wonder why they don't do that in the NFL, in football. It's Pro Football Hall of Fame, to be very clear, not the
I
NFL.
don't know. Fair question. But we know.
Can I
We know.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
can I ask about Stephania T. Higgins on the other side of this? We saw him come back last week. Played 90% of the snaps. I mean, was there anything that made you nervous about his first game back?
No, and I think we typically see a dip in production for anyone coming off a hamstring injury, particularly a wide receiver, and whether that was by design or whether that was just a function of it being his first game, I wasn't concerned. And you always look at, do they come out of the game healthy? Do they come out of the game no worse for having played 90+% of the snaps? And that appears to be the case.
Not only that, so what's the prognosis for this week? Well, I've got him as wide receiver 25. Daniel, you're at wide receiver 23. Mike, a little bit lower at wide receiver 29. Let's acknowledge, I think a lot of us are prescribing the reasons for T. Higgins' potential struggles or not struggles to the fact that he had this unique contract situation this offseason and then the hamstring injury. This is an innately boom-bust player. He has been this even during years in which he was excellent for the course of the season. So I've got him as wide receiver 25. I'm bracing for the possibility of a week like last week. 6 targets, 1 fewer than Jamar Chase, only 3 catches. I'm also bracing for the possibility of 5 for 102 and 2 touchdowns. That's part of the T. Higgins experience.
Yep. I'm with you on that.
Absolutely, but good sign that he played 90% of the snaps. He was a full go last week, and this is one of the pass-heaviest offenses in the NFL. They're going to keep throwing all year long, and that's good for their number 2 target.
Win this week, man. 0-3 Bengals. Jeez,
Hard to believe.
0-4.
Let me ask,
Too good of a team. Too good of a team to be 0-3.
if they go 0-4, what kind of changes? Do we make changes in this
I
offense?
think everybody's saying they're going to trade T. Higgins. No,
I don't know about that.
I'd be stunned if they traded T. Higgins.
It's
It's not
a-
like they're not allowed to extend him after this season. I'm sure they would like to have T. Higgins around for a long time, but they've got a lot of other deals they got to get done. The changes are probably things that will not matter at all in our orbit. It might be like, a left guard plays right guard or something like that.
And look, it's a long shot for teams that are 0-3 to make the playoffs, but usually teams are 0-3 because they're really bad. I don't think the Bengals are bad. On paper, this is an above-average team. So if there's a team that can be an exception, it's them. I expect them to battle back in this division and make at least a run at a wild card.
Yeah, it just sucks to if you're a Bengals fan, I know the frustration. Our producer, Tyler, is a Bengals fan. You're saying to yourself, in the first 4 weeks of the season, we draw the Patriots, Commanders, and Panthers, and we might be 1-3. Those are the teams with the 3 worst records in the NFL last season. Yeah. The 3 worst.
Yeah, should have been a good start.
Yeah, you are starting Zach Moss in this game for what it's worth because the Panthers just can't stop running backs.
They cannot, yes. Although, unless they play for Las Vegas and the Raiders.
You know what?
Run the football.
That's different. I mean, yeah, that doesn't feel good either way.
Amir White dropped in a league that I was in, and I was like, fine, let somebody else grab him.
Yeah, I mean, he's still getting most of the carries, but the thing is, he gets game scripted out immediately. Yeah. And do you expect them to lead often this year? Probably not, right? They're going to be underdogs in most games.
To quote Mike Clay, quoting Randy Jackson yesterday, that's going to know from me. Wait, what is it again?
He was making fun of me for messing it up. That's a no for me, dog.
That was the joke.
That's a no for me, dog.
That's going to be a no for me, dog. That was Mike yesterday. So,
all right, when we come back, we got more of a Week 4 preview coming at you. Back here on Fantasy Focus, I am Daniel Dopp. This is Field Yates, Stephania Bell, and Mike Clay. For what it's worth, our YouTube chat does not believe that this show is live right now, and we just want to say jokes on you guys. This is a live show for what it's worth. It'll be our digital-only segment here for this one, though. We're going to do a start or sit-'em conversation. First, though, Stephania, we got running back updates for the Houston Texans. Let's start with Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce. How are we looking for both of these guys?
So Joe Mixon, week to week with that ankle injury. Remember, it's the mechanism of a high ankle sprain. It was a result of a hip drop swivel tackle that was penalized later. Has not practiced yet this week. Apparently still hard for him to make lateral movements, which is classic with this type of injury. So I'd be very surprised if we see him this week with him not having done anything so far. Dameon Pierce has been out with a hamstring injury. Now we're told that he's making progress and he's getting close, but whether there's enough for him to show on a Friday session to be able to go is still unclear.
Okay, so Mike, here's my question for you. Obviously, we had Cam Akers last week, but Darian Gumbawale is also here. Is there enough of a difference between these guys that you need to worry about not starting Cam Akers, or is he clearly going to be a flex play for us this week?
He's on the flex radar, but very similar, funny enough, to Zamir White. So they split snaps last week. He was 27-26. Ogunbowale played a ton as well, but he handled 82% of the design runs, 43% of the snaps, 82% of the runs, only 7% of the targets. So it depends, I guess, if you think they're going to be leading in this game. And guess what? They probably should be. Jacksonville has struggled against running backs. Houston is the better team. Yep. So maybe if they are ahead throughout this game, you would expect Akers to push for 15 to 18 carries, but that's always risky because if he gets scripted out, then it's going to be a dud. And he got bailed out last week. He was not very good. He caught a touchdown. Might not ever catch another touchdown in his career. Like it might not happen. So it's just a rare thing for running backs to catch touchdowns, especially one's not involved in the passing game.
Is that a career board bet?
I was going to say, you want to board bet that one? I'm
over 0.5.
Cam Akers will never catch a touchdown again.
We should just do it for fun. We're going to forget about it anyway.
No, we got to have a guy that tracks this stuff.
All right, I say Cam Akers will never catch another touchdown in his career.
And I say Cam Akers will catch a touchdown again at some point in his career. Put that on the board, baby.
That is definitely the most ridiculous bet of all time.
So
I gotta be honest with you. I kind of like Cam Akers this week. A little bit more than you were just saying right there.
Really?
The Jaguars, there are teams that are 0-3 where I keep telling myself, they can turn it around, or they've had representative moments. Like Cincinnati offensively has been very good for the past 2 weeks, and they went toe-to-toe on the road with the champs, right? Like, they could have easily beat the Chiefs in that game. They are one stupid penalty, and it was a penalty. It was clearly a foul, just stupid awareness from beating the champs, and that maybe changes how Week 3 goes for Cincinnati. I don't believe Jacksonville's got it right now. That looks like a team that is just completely hapless at the moment.
Yeah, you're right. And on paper,
I'm worried. And Houston coming off of a win, off of a loss, I think they're a little bit sort of like we were feeling ourselves a little bit too much in the first 2 weeks. We had too much of that. We are going to be a legit AFC contender on our back, and instead they crap the bed against the Vikings. I think they come out, make a statement, and Cam Akers looks good on Sunday.
Fix me game opportunity.
80 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, there's always these teams that should be better than they are, and they just underwhelm all year, and Jacksonville just looks like that. They're too good on defense on paper. I know they're down Tyson Campbell. They should be better than this, and they are badly underperforming.
Stephania, can I ask you quickly about, come on now, let's make cheeks a positive connotation. I think you're looking at the wrong kind of cheeks. Let me say this. No Evan Ingram. And I feel like that has obviously impacted this offense. Is there a chance that we would see Evan Ingram this week?
I think they were hoping that he would be better enough that they could get him back this week, but he has not practiced, and now this week is looking unlikely. So I think it's going to be deferred yet another week. I do want to mention on the other side of the ball, because people may not have noticed, Tank Dell dealing with some bruised ribs. It's actually very painful, and there's a really good chance that Tank Dell misses this game.
Nico Collins also added to the injury report.
Yes, I was just about to say that. He was added on Thursday with a hamstring injury, and these hamstring injuries that crop up late, this is my thing on this. You never know if it is just you feel a little something at the end of practice and they say we're going to take you out and just protect you for the weekend, or if it's really an injury where all of a sudden this happened in practice and now it's significant. We saw that with T. Higgins. This was the exact example. T. Higgins didn't think it was a big deal. All of a sudden it turns into him being out for 2 games. So pay close attention to what's happening down in Houston this weekend, because this status could go right down to the wire.
What about Brenton Strange, who scored more fantasy points than both Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce so far to start the season?
Yeah, his stat lines are,
isn't it?
yeah.
Heyo. Nailed it.
3 for 65 and no touchdowns, and then 2 catches for 12 yards and 1 touchdown, both top 10 weeks.
That's
fantasy.
unreal.
I know. Nothing special.
Sucks so bad.
I know. So if you're desperate, you need a streamer, which again, as we talked about earlier, you probably do, or you almost definitely do.
Look
Strange
at
is
that
an
projection.
option.
That projection obviously includes Evan Ingram.
Yeah, I got to change that. I'll do that.
One target for 4 yards. That would just be amazing.
Doesn't feel good, though.
1 target, 4 yards. That would be good for tight end 12 this week, probably.
The top 12 guy. What about Christian Kirk? We were out on Christian Kirk after the first couple weeks, and then last week he was like, "Hey guys, just kidding. I'm still a part of this offense."
He sure was. And Gabe Davis, has he been practicing so far this week? I think Gabe has been banged up after that leaving the game Monday, right? Or am I making that up?
I have to look at it. I can go through and check it right now while you're talking, Field.
Yeah, because so 2 things here. If Gabe Davis is unavailable, that means one more body that has been sort of blockading Christian Kirk. But then last week, I don't know how much of that was a game script thing, because it's not like Jacksonville has been dominating so far this season. But beyond that is like, I wonder if Jacksonville was kind of like, oh, wait, we forgot that number 13's maybe the best receiver on our roster.
We've had this conversation before. Remember, what was it, last year, week 1, I think it was? They didn't play him that much. He did nothing. And then we had the same conversation, like, how do they keep forgetting this guy exists? Is he just like high during the offseason? And then they're like a week 3, they're like, oh yeah, we actually have a good number 1 receiver. But yeah, it was good to see 10 targets, 8 for 79 last week. That's what we're used to from Kirk. He's a good player. And he's been on the field for the most part. Almost 80% of the snaps, is a 19% target share. I think he's just going to be one of them flex guys. Just a boring flex guy going forward.
Gabe Davis limited in both of his practices.
But I think that this one didn't scare them at the beginning of the week, which is why it hadn't really registered with me. They called him day to day, and if he goes full today, then no big deal. I will say this: Dalton Schultz, who you might think could be a tight end, who might actually see some increased volume if Houston was down their receivers, he's also on the injury report because of his ankle, although he did upgrade a little bit on Thursday. So, you know, potential. I mean, he could be more involved. If all of a sudden they were without Nico Collins and without Tank Dell, keep an eye on Dalton Schultz.
All right, we'll watch that one still. Again, just a reminder, check out Fantasy Football Now on Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. for all the information that you need. All right, Seattle and Detroit. Stephania, what can you tell us about Ken Walker? Because we've seen Zach Charbonnet just crush it these last couple weeks.
Yeah, no, well, if you add last week and now this week, he limited on Thursday because of that oblique, so that's why Kenneth Walker has been absent. I will say he was in practice with the helmet, you know, during warm-ups when it's open to the media, so it looked like he was in uniform. Usually that's a sign that they're going to be more involved in the practice. It's Monday Night Football, so we only have 1 report of the week so far.
Right.
So this is another one where we may not get a better indication until it gets closer to Sunday.
This is a brutal circumstances, because it's also a really tough matchup against your Lions, the best against running backs so far in fantasy.
Wearing these jerseys for what it's worth.
There you go. And that's huge. That's a huge difference maker there. But look, if Ken Walker was a full go and he was healthy and it was like he was used in week 1 and we downgraded him, he still might be at least a running back 2 flex option, but he might be limited even if he plays, especially with Charbonnet playing well. So I think you have to try to avoid both guys here. It's just it's a tough spot.
Agree. I'll share some things just real fast, just because it's fun talking about my Detroit Lions in a positive way, because I'm going to say some very negative stuff about them at the very end of the show.
What?
Lions have allowed the second fewest yards to running backs on the ground. Second fewest.
Wow. not good.
Maybe running backs are just doing stuff in the passing game, though, right? Let's just quickly take a look at that. Kyron Williams, week 1, 3 catches for 4 yards. Week 2,
bad.
Rashad White,
bad.
1 catch for 5 yards, no catches at all for Bucky Irving. Week 3, James Conner, also a pretty good pass catcher for what it's worth. 1 catch for 8 yards. The Lions have allowed 5 catches for 17 yards to running backs. They've given up the fewest fantasy points at the position, 26.5. Through 3 weeks, they've given up less than 10 points a week on average to running backs.
Wow.
They're down there top 2 linebackers, though, right? Unless Anzalone's coming back.
Anzalone looks like he's going to be back this week. It looks like they will be without Derek Barnes for sure.
Yeah, he's out IR, yep.
So we'll see how that one works out.
They have some depth there, though.
This week feels weird because there are 2 Monday Night Football games this week, of course. I had zero matchups were in the balance going into like the second half of the second Monday night game last week. Everything was decided by then. It wasn't like I'm
behind
sitting there
by 30 in all of them.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
I just feel like this week it's going to be a total mess. I'm going to be sitting there in the fourth quarter, literally sweating it out. Like, all right, I need J-Mo to have exactly 3.4 fantasy points to win one, but if he gets more than 3.6 in the second half, I lose in the other. So thread that needle for me, J-Mo. Will you do it?
It's cute that he thinks we believe he's going to be awake for the second half. Of the
Yeah,
game.
right.
Like, that's why nothing's in question, because he's sleeping.
You notice whenever we have group chats in these games, it feels like field falls off easily. In like
There is a couch in my house that has a divot on it.
I'll bet.
From Thursday and Monday Night Football. Listen, guys. All right, listen. Mike, you're not that far removed from having 2 incredibly young daughters
right.
in your household. A little bit of empathy right here would be appreciated.
In some spots, but I made it through all those games, so I'm just saying.
Oh, wow.
I didn't think you watched ball. I thought that was.
That's what I mean. I watched the dots. I watched the dots.
Well, that's what it is. That's what it is. Really quickly, a couple other players in this game. I'm going to save my JSN take because he's going to be someone I'll talk about later in the show. But I think you can start both DK Metcalf and JSN in this one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
What about Tyler Lockett? I mean, we talk about how difficult it is to sustain 3 wide receivers in an offense. Has he become the Tank Dell of this offense?
Well, I have good news for you guys. In the weeks in which I was fully convinced not to touch Tyler Lockett in a 16-team 2-flex league, the War Room League, he had great games. In the 1 week where I was like, this is it. Tyler Lockett, clutch football player. Got to have him in the lineup. He had 2 catches for 15 yards.
So where are you on him this week?
It's your fault.
He's not in the lineup right now.
right,
So
he's gonna
congratulations
go
to
off.
those that do start Tyler Lockett. So I swear, if this continues for like 1 or 2 more weeks, I might literally just like right before the games begin, give my phone to somebody else and be like, you execute the switch, right? Because I can't do it. I can't be the one responsible for this stuff.
All right, I'll do it.
Give me
What
your
could
phone.
possibly go wrong if Mike Lay takes your phone?
Don't worry.
A lot more than Tyler Lockett.
My ringtone
being-
is the Coco Melon theme song, Mike. There's not that much cool stuff going on my phone.
Oh, I'll get creative.
Is it really?
No.
Oh, man.
And my ringtone is it's actually, I'm getting a call right now from someone.
Oh, wow. I do have ringtones. Do you guys not have ringtones? I have songs that play. You guys have all heard the songs that I play.
You know, that phone call is ESPN. They're like, actually, we heard you talking about all them jobs, out there, the job market. You should consider those.
It's Bradley Cooper. He wants.
Yeah, you can call
Okay.
him. Yeah, you guys are on a first name
Hey,
basis.
Brad, hold on a second, man. Yeah. No, Eagles big this weekend.
Stephania.
JSN, ask Daniel Dopp in like 15 minutes on this.
Tell him I'll call him back.
I'll call right back. Hey, how's filming going well?
Called for you. That's
He's a Philly guy. He'd be calling me if anybody.
It's because my phone is on silent. He wanted to make sure he could get passed
I
over.
was from Maryland.
I lived
Watching
in
some
Maryland.
football.
Yeah.
Big Philly fan.
He is a big.
He is from. He is.
Stephania, let me ask you other side of this game. Detroit Lions. Obviously, we're starting Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're starting Jamison Williams as a flex play. What about Sam Laporta
your
dealing with
guy,
that ankle sprain?
Sam Laporta, with that low lateral ankle sprain, did not practice on Thursday. We saw him go in and out of the game, but obviously this is not nothing. So really, I think it's going to come down to functionality, Daniel. And Thursday, again, because it's Monday night game, we only have the 1 report, so really not much to go on.
I'm going to say this. The decision will be made for us on Sam Laporta in this regard. And it's hard because it's Monday night games. You'd have to have a contingency plan. I don't know if like
At least there's 2
Rock
games.
Wright tickles your fancy or something, right? But if he plays, I'm holding the line with Sam Laporta. I'm playing him.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would love clarity by Sunday. And I'll just live with whatever the outcome is besides Sam Laporta.
There's really not much difference in how he's being used. The results just haven't been there yet, and we can apply that to a lot of tight ends. So still a really good offense. I think you keep using him for now.
A couple things I would point out. Dan Campbell is usually very transparent on these things. Like, he's very helpful for us who are making these kinds of decisions.
Let's talk about offensive linemen. Did you guys hear they're putting Frank Ragnow down? Just in the most peace, Frank Ragnow. I am so sorry about
R.I.P.
that.
in peace.
Stop.
For those that missed the quote, he was talking about Frank Ragnow, and they have their bye in week 5, and so he's got this shoulder injury, right?
And
Pec
Ragnow wanted to
injury.
play through it.
Right, and he said, we're going to put Frank down this week. And
Right.
one of those things that when you read it on Twitter, it's like, I had to go. I went and I immediately consoled my own dog, Cisco, like, no, you're not going anywhere right now, bud. Don't worry.
That's so funny.
Just hot spots.
So other than that, yes, we're in a good spot.
Other than that, the other thing I was going to say before the
Sorry, I totally derailed.
somber, no putting anyone down in this conversation. No,
Be inactive.
it was that Sam Laporta, when he was injured last year, and it looked like it would be something that was a big deal. Yeah. He played, and he played really, really well. Like, he definitely is a guy who can tough through things. It's a question of it being so early. That was much later in the season.
Let me ask you guys this question. We got 2 Monday night games, 4 teams.
Yeah.
So if Sam Laporta doesn't go, you got a couple options that I think you should at least consider adding to your bench if you need him and he's your only tight end.
Number 1 is?
There's either Noah Fant,
That's number 1.
Jonnu Smith, or Chig Okonkwo.
Jake would be 2 for me.
Jonnu would be 3.
But that one, honestly, that's just.
It's like
Rock Wright would be 3.
Yeah.
And then maybe Jonnu.
No, I think Jonnu and Chig are kind of like 2/3,
2A,
2/2B. Yeah, there you go. Better.
We're going with Noah Fant.
I think Fant's probably your best option there. Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe Brock Wright, because he'll play every down, right?
Just saying this now, if you have to do that, make sure that you drop someone before the games start, because if you wait and there's no one for you to drop, if Sam Laporta doesn't go, you're not going to be able to. I guess you'd have to drop Sam Laporta. Like
I would add someone now, like unless you had clarity on
Yeah,
Sam Laporta
agreed,
by
exactly.
Sunday morning,
100%.
just add one of those
right
guys, ASAP.
All right. And you're starting David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Can we just say that? We don't really need to say it too much, but you're starting both.
Montgomery now in the
keeps
top
scoring
20.
touchdowns. Yeah.
Yeah, he keeps doing it.
Stephania, another tight end that we have questions about, David Njoku. Is he going to be back this week for us?
well, he's teasing us. Came to practice Thursday in his uniform and with his helmet. He was doing individual work, so it's really unclear what he did beyond that. They listed him as limited. Obviously, it's the high ankle sprain that he suffered in week 1 that's kept him out ever since. Friday, he's another big Friday practice guy. Let's see what happens. Look, production always goes down for pass catchers when they come back from a high ankle sprain. It's normal. It's a little, they struggle a little bit the first time back, so just keep that in mind.
Well, at least this Browns offense is just flying.
Yes, right, totally. Just one more tight end update while we're talking tight ends.
Yeah, let's do
Doug
it.
Peterson just a few moments ago told reporters Evan Ingram is doubtful on Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
Well,
Kind of in
yeah.
line with where Stephania suggested it was going.
So Brendan Strange will move up the projections. I'm on it soon. I'm just going to go now. Should I do that now? Is that
Yeah,
urgent?
Just
I mean,
jump into
yeah.
it right now.
Yeah.
What
You can start working on the baseball projections for next year.
Okay, on it.
You're good.
do you
for the
do
rest of
with,
the
do we have to, assuming David Njoku doesn't go, are we at a spot where we've got to start Amari Cooper because of the target share that he's gotten? And, I mean, obviously that big game, 7 for 86 and 2 touchdowns last week.
But I don't think he's a lineup lock necessarily. He's in late 20 rankings for me. However, his target share right now is 26.4. Believe it or not, that's a career high for Amari Cooper. So that's a good sign. He's 8+ targets in every game, but it's been inconsistent. I mean, a lot of his points last year came in one game, so it's been all over the map. If I have him, he's probably going to find his way into my lineup, but it's been kind of all over the map.
I would say definitively he is not a must start because you're in that range where you conceivably have a few options you're choosing between for one spot. But is he startable? Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
startable.
Yeah.
Do you see the comments that Deshaun Watson made about how he's not a running quarterback? He doesn't want to run the football.
Well, then throw better.
I'm going to pass.
That's exactly where I was at. If you're
Yeah,
not
just
going
throw it better then.
I'm with you on that one. I was shocked when I saw that. He's not trying to run the football, doesn't want to get out there, not trying to take
Whatever.
hits.
Jameis Winston. That's my response.
All right. When we come back, we got a few more things to be able to talk about for our Week 4 preview. Please stick around. All right, back here on Fantasy Focus, Daniel Dopp, Field Yates, Stephania Bell, Mike Clay. We got a Mike Clay segment. Hey, check this out segment from Mike Clay. Mike, I'm going to turn the mic over to you.
All right, I just brought my race cars and stuff to show. It's like show and tell.
That's
Just,
exactly what
check
it
this
is.
out. This is my matchbot, my Mark Martin match.
So what is check this out? What are we going to do here? How is this segment going to work?
I'm just going to give you an interesting statistical nugget I came across during the week, and you guys could talk about it and what you think about the player and go from there. And that's
All right.
it.
Love it. All right, so
I'll
what are we
just sit here
starting
and
with this
listen.
one?
All right, first one is Alan Lazard, and the stat is just that he stinks. I mean, that's it. That's it.
I believe the
Looking at
page
field.
says Alan Lazard sucks, and here's why.
Yeah, here it is. So the stat is, here it is. Check this out. He ranks 43rd at wide receiver in targets, but is tied for first in touchdowns with 3, but also drops with 2 this season. So look, I'm I'm out on Alan Lazard.
Yeah, interesting.
Here's the thing, though. He has touchdowns because Aaron Rodgers is always going to look for him. Like, he's always a potential threat to score. And if I am...
I don't know about that.
I know you don't want to believe this is true, but we're 3 weeks in. He's got 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, 2 in garbage time. He had no catches in the first half of the first game. They were both when they were down 19-plus points. One was from Tyrod Taylor.
He's far too fixated on stuff.
He had 3 targets last week.
Semantics.
He had 3 targets last week. It was all in garbage time in week 1. He was barely used in week 2.
Are you familiar with style points?
He does not want it to be true. He
they don't
does not
alert is what
want
I'm
it to be
familiar
true
with.
because in the preseason he was like, "This is not
I
a
stand
thing."
by it. I stand by it.
Aaron Rodgers loves Alan Lazard.
How upset are you going to be, Mike, when Alan Lazard draws the Pat Surtain shadow?
That would be
and
hilarious.
It's not Garrett.
I kind of hope that does happen. That'd be the ultimate disrespect for Garrett Wilson
It
of all
really
time.
would be.
By the way, Denver fewest fantasy points to receiver, so I'm sorry. I don't know where you have Lazard ranked this week, but he will not be
Here's
close to
me.
my lineup.
Mike can
Please
read,
let
so
this
it's
happen.
51 is where
Please let this happen. You
There
know
you
how
go.
you want
You're with
Cam
me. You agree
Akers to
with
get
me.
a touchdown? I want Alan Lazard to get a touchdown
So
badly.
So bad.
So badly.
No,
Like I'm all
I
in.
know. This is one of them things where he's breaking stats, and I hate guys who break the stats. Again, outside the top 40 in
Does
targets,
it
but
break
first in
your
touchdowns.
brain?
No,
I love it. I love it.
Fade him.
All right, I'm with you. I mean, we don't have him ranked for what it's worth, though.
Yeah,
I know.
He's
He's
top
51st in fields.
Yeah,
ranks.
wide
That
receiver
tells you
51.
Yes, listen, if the apologist, sorry, I'm a sucker for guys that are going to probably go to the Hall of Fame. You can't prove to me that he won't go to the Hall of Fame.
The cool last name Hall of Fame, maybe.
I have a question. This is a trivia that I think Mike might be able to get, but just curious. What was the first team that Alan Lazard played for?
The first, good one. I don't know if
I'd
I
say
know
the
this.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Jaguars? I don't know.
Stefania?
There's what we're throwing
How
out.
the hell does Mike randomly guess the right team?
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's just where my brain went. Sometimes
Yeah, like you think the Jaguars could use the greatness of Alan Lazard right now? He put Trevor Lawrence on his back and say, "Hey, you got to owe me about 45 of that $55 million a year you're getting paid right now." That's right, the Lazard.
How did you guess that?
I don't know. That's sometimes there's a file way in the back of your head, and your instincts just take you to. Or I got lucky. I don't. Maybe I got as lucky as Lazard's getting into tight.
Go to the next player.
All
will
right.
ya?
All right. Next
I
one
guess
is
so.
Juwan Jennings. Check this out. 40%. He had a 40% target share in week 3 while leading the Niners in targets with 12 and air yards, which Field hates, with 149. Ladies and gentlemen, that was his first ever double-digit target game.
Starting this week or no?
Yeah. 24th on my board against the Patriots.
I'm assuming if you're starting him, Stefania, I want to get an update on both George Kittle and Debo, because if both of them roll, maybe Juwan Jennings wouldn't be in our lineups. What do we know about that?
Well, this is getting interesting because George Kittle is tracking towards playing. So this hamstring issue limited Wednesday and Thursday. It sounds like he's going to try and go. Debo Samuel with a calf. Did not practice on Wednesday, but did get back out there on Thursday. So we shall see. This is the Debo Samuel thing. I think will come down to the wire. But Debo's one of those who lets them know when he's ready, and when he's ready, he will go. But definitely looking very positive for George Kittle.
I should have mentioned that. If Debo plays, that's a different story for Jennings. It's very hard to play him. And we've seen this before. I think it was, the name just popped in my head. Richie James, I think, was the guy. When everyone was out, he had that like 11 or 12 target game a couple of years ago. I mean, we've seen guys in San Francisco like Jennings have a huge game, not to that extent, but a huge game and then disappear. And again, there's a lot of mouths to feed, even with McCaffrey out. So if Debo's back and Kittle's out or is back, then Jennings I don't think is.
The thing that makes Jennings such an interesting one for me is this very basic fundamental fact. He's a good football player.
Yeah.
Like he's just been buried because the 49ers have an embarrassment of riches amongst their pass catchers. He's good. Like last week was obviously a touch. I mean, it was a little bit fluky, right? I mean, 46.5 fantasy points. Maybe more than a little bit.
A little bit fluky,
right?
yeah.
But he's good. He is a good football player. This Patriots defense, I don't think, is anything close to what it was, even as recently as last season. I've got him as wide receiver 21 this week.
Yeah. And Gonzalez
Obviously,
will be on
if-
Brandon Ayuk in this one.
Yep.
Not him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. After last week, maybe he will
He
do
won't.
that.
He'll be in the slot. He'll be in the slot
Yes,
a lot,
yes,
so
yes,
he won't
you
be
are
on him.
correct.
We all
But
have
Ricky
Juwan
Pearsall could come back next week too and be a factor as well. So
That one's probably a
Jennings-
little ways away.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, next one. Khalil Shakir. Check this out. Shakir is the only player in the NFL with 10-plus targets and a 100% catch rate so far this season. Leads the Bills in routes and targets so far this season. Baltimore hasn't been great against receivers. This could be a bit of a shootout this week. So Shakir on the rise.
How about this? Khalil Shakir currently is on a 27 straight target catch streak.
Wow, no way. It goes back
No
to last
streak
year.
longer than that in the NFL history.
That's unreal.
27 straight targets. And I think to be out, so it's going to eventually come to an end. But that to me is part of the value of Khalil Shakir that we talked about coming into the season.
He's like the anti-Alan Lazard is what you're saying.
It's just the idea that, like, he is going to catch passes. He's going to get Wan'Dale Robinson-type action last night, right? I don't care whether he catches the ball 30 yards down the field or 3 feet down the field. As long as he catches the football, while I'd certainly prefer the 30-yard down the field catches, if he catches the football and does it 5 to 6 times a game, that is going to be good enough to hang on to top 30 wide receiver value, playing alongside who has been the most impressive quarterback through the first weeks of the season. Yep. And by the way, it's like, the debates have begun now. That's what happens when you get close to a quarter of the way through the season. To be very clear, people, Patrick Mahomes is the best player on the planet. It's not close, okay? Until someone comes anywhere close to him resume-wise, it's not close. But Josh Allen playing this well is not surprising at all. Like, if the draft starts with Patrick Mahomes, I'm turning the card in within 5 seconds for Josh Allen. Because to me, clearly the second best quarterback in the NFL. He has played every bit of that sort of mantle through the first weeks of the season.
100% with you.
Yeah, by the way, working in Shakir's favor is Keon Coleman was 5th on the depth chart at wide receiver last week. He didn't play a snap for quite a while. He caught that touchdown, which if you started him in the deepest of leagues, you got bailed out because he was on pace for a 0-point game. And
Say my name next time.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I have him on a couple benches, and I don't want to drop him yet because he was a second-round pick, and you would think at some point he should return to a full-time role, but that just hasn't been the case so far, and Shakir's the guy you want to start there, and that's it.
Yeah, well, and Dalton Kincaid, if you've got to.
A wide receiver.
I think Kincaid's coming on, by the way. I'm convinced Monday night was unlocking.
Oh, yeah, he's fine. I mean, even week 2, he had a big target share. We talked about that in FF now. He was in a good spot moving forward.
Yeah, those are the
Keon Coleman will get there. He was also held out deliberately in the first quarter because, he needed to be on time. Like Field.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Field, you're very punctual.
Oh, yeah.
Field was like, I'm always on time.
You're not always there when
you're
I
the
call.
example.
Yeah, you took it right out of my mouth.
Nailed it. I'm so proud of you guys for that one. That's
job.
like a band I've actually heard of. Or a
Love
singer
it.
I've actually heard of.
One of the 3 I've heard of. Okay. Last one here. Darnell Mooney. Check this out. Drake London has a team-high 20 targets, but Mooney is just behind him with 18 and leads the team in air yards with 186. Mooney's been really good the last couple of games. 7+ targets, 66+ yards, and 14+ fantasy points in his last 2 games. This is a guy we like. This kind of a somewhat boring, like late-round sleeper. He was in a really good spot. It's a guy that was heavily targeted in Chicago, and it's working out so far. He's been really good the past couple of weeks.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he is.
1,000 yards in his second season with the Bears. He got a 3-year, $39 million contract this offseason, which is like
That's real money.
That's like a year of Justin Jefferson, who deserves it, by the way. But still, it's a lot of money. Like 3 years, $13 million. That's per year. That's legit. Like, it's a legitimate investment by the Falcons. So this is real. To me, he reminds me, not in the way that in terms of the volume, exactly the same amount of volume as Wan'Dale Robinson, but a guy that, like, you don't think about him as the kind of player that you're consistently going to feel good about starting in the flex, but I think we're going to end up there. I think
Feeling better and better as these weeks have gone on because it proved that early Monday night game was not a fluke at all.
Good. Yeah.
Gosh, I really like this segment. Can I be honest? We should bring back Check This Out every once in a while.
Check this out. I don't. I think it's trash. Like
think
Mike.
it's
Yeah.
That's because I said nasty things about Lazard.
I
Why he's going to plummet back to earth.
No,
Nothing wrong
I
with
only
that.
want this segment if we start with Al Lazard every week.
Every single
I'll have
week.
new Lazard stats. I'll have a
Every
new
week.
reason why he's going to regress. I
can't
don't care
wait.
if he has 10
Please
touchdowns.
score a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to manifest this. You believe in
gets the-
manifesting. Can I please manifest an Alan Lazard touchdown?
Yeah, I'm going to go head over to ESPN Bet, put in an Alan Lazard anytime touchdown. So then it's going to be twice as sweet when he scores for what it's worth. All right.
Buy a
when we
car
come
at the
back,
end of the year with that money.
that's right. When we come back, we're going to talk our starts of the week here in week 4. Stick around. All right, back here on Fantasy Focus, Daniel Dopp, Field Yates, Stephania Bell, Mike Clay, giving you our starts of the week. We got 4 people to go through. I'm going to give you mine real quick first. This is Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'll be real quick about this one. 21 targets of the Seattle Seahawks.
I love.
Oh, you love.
Love.
I thought you said of. Sorry, Mike.
Love.
He looks
You
great.
support.
He looks great. 21 targets, only 3 fewer than DK Metcalf. Same number of routes run as DK and the Detroit Lions. These are the bad stats I said I was going to give you guys.
Yeah.
Lions have given up 609 yards to the wide receiver position. That's the most in the NFL. Second most fantasy points to wide receivers. And JSN has lived in the slot, where Detroit Lions have given up the second most completions in the NFL to wide receivers in the slot. It is a smash spot for JSN this week. I've got him as a very good.
It's going to be interesting for us because we run a dynasty team together. Olave and Harrison are locked in, and then we could pick 2 more out of
Jaden Reed, my guy.
Yeah.
JSN, who you like, and my start of the week, George Pickens. So we got to pick two of
wow,
those
this is
three.
gonna be tough.
I guess we're in a good spot here, but we're gonna have to pick 4 of those guys. So
you love George Pickens then?
Yeah, I like George Pickens. Good target share so far, 25%. He's had a couple tough matchups, 7 targets and over 10 fantasy points against Atlanta and the Chargers, but he got shut down by Surtain, which really kind of reduced his fantasy output this season. He's faced 3 defenses that are top 10 in terms of fewest yards allowed, passing yards allowed so far this season. The Colts are top 10 in fantasy points allowed this season. So to wide receivers, and that's despite facing Malik Willis too, which makes the numbers look even worse. 4th most fantasy points to receivers, 6th most to the perimeter. They have problems on the outside, especially with Juju Brents out. So that's good for Pickens, where he primarily aligns. And actually, again, if you take the Willis game away, they've allowed 15-plus fantasy points to 2 receivers in both of the other games, Moore and Adunze and Diggs and Collins. So this sets up for a big breakout game for Pickens.
Love that. Would love it if that could happen. Would you start George Pickens over Tyreek Hill? I'm going to ask this about every single player we talk about.
That's a close call. I mean, you
good
sure
one.
could, yeah.
I think the answer for most all of these is you could. It's just how strong.
Yeah.
I have him ranked close, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Stephania, where are you going with your start of the week here?
I'm going to Chris Godwin, who's having a resurgent season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after last year was lost a little bit in the offense. He scored a touchdown every single week. 8 receptions, 7 receptions, 6 receptions. Don't let that number going down by 1 each week fool you. Chris Godwin's about to have a big week. Both he and Mike Evans on the injury report this week, but I think this is more management of relatively minor things. I don't think it threatens their status in any way. I've seen that Eagles defense. They can be had by pass catchers. So,
Well, how about this? Eagles 10th fewest allowed to the perimeter fantasy points, 6th most to the slot, which is where he aligns.
And
He's
they
gonna see
have
a lot of
been
Maddox.
actually, remember, wasn't it Chris Godwin's wife who was like, she wanted to see him in the slot more. She made that help make that happen. Yeah.
Working.
For what it's worth, Chris Godwin just crushed the Detroit Lions in the slot when he played him. So it could be a repeat performance.
You know something? Let's speak of the Lions here for a second. Because I'm on to you, Daniel Dopp. I just noticed something.
What'd you notice?
Back-to-back weeks here. You know what Daniel Dopp does? He picks a player facing off against his Lions as a start of the week.
Big brain move.
Last week,
Jedi
it's
mind
Kyler
trick.
Murray.
Yeah, last
This
week,
week, of course, it's JSN. And I don't care about how it went. I like the thought process here. You're saying to yourself, if my team's going to lose, my fantasy squad and my start of the week is going to win.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
The Lions are on a bye next week, so you're not going to have a start of the week next week.
Next week, I'm just out. Yeah, I'm going to take the show off
Got
altogether.
it. Also, I do think it's worth mentioning that the Eagles likely to be without A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith this week, so start
Paris
Goddard. Yeah. We'll dive into that a lot on Fantasy Football Now on Sunday. My start of the week, though, to wrap things up, is Kyler Murray. And I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm just going to pick the player who's facing off against the Commanders every single week.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But literally, the defense, as I saw this, oh my gosh, who had this? It might have been, dang it, I'm going to think of this.
It's parent brain.
While you're thinking about it,
No,
Washington,
it's the person.
Okay.
So, dang, who was it? Okay, I'm sorry. It might be Hayden Winks. I'm sorry. Somebody on Twitter who I follow is excellent noted that the Commanders both lead the NFL in drives that have resulted in a point scored and percentage of drives that have resulted in a point allowed. Very effective offense, very
Love that for
ineffective
fantasy.
defense.
That's
It's great
awesome.
for fantasy because it means lots of shootouts, and it means that you should be starting Kyler Murray this week.
Yeah, Washington 18-plus fantasy points allowed to all 3 quarterbacks they faced, and it's not Mahomes, Allen, Hurts. It's Daniel Jones, Joe Burrow, he's got Baker Mayfield. So, I mean, they're just clearly allowing a high floor to quarterbacks and big production. Kyler's been all over the place, though. He's been 15th or worse in 2 of 3 games. He just has that one big game, but this is a really good matchup.
Yep, he is, yeah.
This is a
Some
spot
work to do.
I feel like against the Commanders, this has become the defense that you just start everybody against.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. Especially your quarterback and your wide receiver.
Yes.
Yep.
Especially them.
Especially those two. Yeah. Marvin Harrison Jr. is locked in. Are you starting any of the other Cardinals? I mean, is there a good enough matchup that you think Greg Dortch could get
Ray McBride's very iffy for this one. He's still in concussion protocol as we speak.
him and Michael Wilson? We'll kind of see how that one works out. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. This was a fun show. I do want to say this. I got 2 more DMs. Stop sending me sicko DMs to look at my ankles, people.
Stop.
I don't know what
your
You're
DMs up.
wearing
Yeah.
high boots.
I
today.
did. I tried to
We're
cover it up.
overcompensating.
My eyes are up here, okay? Jeez. I can't believe you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been a ton of fun, like we do every single week. This has been a ton of fun all week long. So go back and check out yesterday's show if you want to see week 1 or the week 4 preview part 1.
Yeah.
For today, though, we love you guys. Don't forget to love each other. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. For me, Fields, Stephania, and Mike Clay, we will see you guys Sunday morning on Fantasy Football Now, ESPN 2, 10 a.m. Eastern. Check us out. We'll see you there, baby.
You show your ankles on Only Dan's?
You know what? Best segment America's ever had.